Thank you all for coming and attending this amazing session with us. We want to inspire you, the youth of this generation, the young generation. We want to enable you to understand the global issues so that you gain deeper insight to the world. And we want to promote social responsibility among you guys through films and insightful discussions. Ajyal Talks is a new addition to the festival this year, and today we are so privileged and honored to have with us Mr. Khalid Khalifa, the UNHCR Regional Representative to the States of the Gulf Cooperation Council.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. I'm humbled by this introduction, and I'm extremely happy to be with you. I'm already inspired by the spirit in this room. The refugees have stories. That we are not talking about numbers and statistics. We are talking about people who have families and they count. I would like to share with you the story of Aya. Aya is from Syria with a condition called spina bifida. That means that she is paralyzed from her waist down. Aya requires medical attention. She requires rehabilitation. She requires a lot of support. They lived in Syria until the war broke out. And then, like millions of others, they were forced to leave. And how do they leave from Syria to the neighboring countries? Many thousands of Syrians needed to walk out. And that's exactly what happened in the case of Aya. Aya is a beautiful soul. She is everything but a victim. Aya's family used to live in this tent near a cement factory because that's the only place where they could stay. And you can imagine her health condition, living in a tent, no medical assistance available. The only hope is to find a country that can accept them, where they can live a normal life that we take for granted. 4 months ago, Aya and her family were resettled in France, where she is now receiving the required medical assistance. She goes to school, and her family feels safe, above all. Unfortunately, there are so many ayahs around there. There are so many people who need the assistance. We are talking about 65 million people. 65 million people between refugees and internally displaced. 53% of all the refugees in the world live in the Middle East. You can imagine the load on the infrastructure, and you are not talking about countries that have a lot of resources. I was in Lebanon a few months back, and I visited Al-Hariri University Hospital. And in the intensive care unit, there were 11 beds. I don't think there is anybody, anywhere, who is immune to humanitarian problems. All of us can find ourselves in a situation where we face the problems that are faced by refugees. There are beautiful stories as well. There are people who are making a difference. The organizations in Qatar are working across the globe. I would consider Ajyal a humanitarian organization by giving us the chance to speak. The media can be the biggest humanitarian organization in the world by carrying the story, by telling the story, by encouraging people to make a difference. This is Buhaisa al-Arabi. Buhaisa was getting married a few years back. She wanted to make a difference. The money she saved from this marriage alone provided a water system for a whole village in Djibouti. What difference does it make actually to wear a wedding dress that is worth $100,000 or a wedding dress that is worth $2,000 or $3,000? The difference is the life you will be giving to many, many people. Above that, she started an initiative called Be a Different Bride. كوني عروسة مختلفة. She encouraged others to follow suit. For any of you who traveled to a different country and you do not speak the language, imagine yourself going to Germany or Holland and you do not speak the language. And you're going to live there. And imagine the situation of refugees who go to open a bank account in Germany, for example. Those people developed an application. And that software translates for people the forms, gives them a map of the different offices in Germany, tells them what to do if they need a hospital, what to do if they need to open a bank account, and so on. Our friend here, Amr Arafa, he developed something called emergency B&B. And he encouraged people to offer their own houses, a place in your house, a room, even a bed in a room. The only difference here is that there is no exchange of money. So people like Amr Arafa here, people like Munzir Khattab, I mean to mention their names because they did a great job, who developed bureaucracy, helped also thousands and thousands of refugees. This group of young people developed something called Natakallam. Natakallam is an initiative that links Arabic speakers with those who want to learn Arabic. Ala Minawi is a Palestinian artist who works with lights. And these are very simple projects, but they tell a big story. What I'm trying to tell you is that you do not have to work for a humanitarian organization to be humanitarian. Each and every one in this room can be an organization. You can make a difference in the life of a small number of people. You can make a difference in the life of one person. And that is worth it. Believe me, it's worth it. And it's extremely rewarding. The needs around the world are exceeding the capacity of organizations that provide assistance. What is the solution? From my perspective, I think the China model. What is the China model? The China model in business, where everybody is doing a business. Imagine if every one of you looks at humanitarian work as a project. Probably in the future, if this happens, maybe we will not have refugees. If you feel compassion, you shouldn't stop. Do something. Do something. Something small. But at least give yourself the impression that you have done something for the world we live in. I have a lot of hope in you, and I have a lot of hope in a better future. I think it's not all doom and gloom. Like Aya, there will be millions of Ayas who will be saved if we work together. Thank you.
Growing up, my dream was to do exactly what you're doing, and I want to know what advice you have that you can give me.
My advice is not to limit yourself. Don't put yourself in the box of only helping through existing organizations. Just think of your own skills, your own resources, what you can do with a small group of people around you, and you will do great.
What is your advice? How can we encourage larger populations rather than just making like direct connections?
A film about refugees can help change perspectives. A website can help decrease xenophobia in a country. And that's how you can make an everlasting change at the bigger scale. You can impact decision makers, you can influence public opinion, and you can make a difference by making the others do the job.
Why do you think that the international community isn't doing more for the Syrian refugee crisis, which is the worst since World War II? And I was wondering what you thought the election of Trump would mean for that crisis.
The problems we are talking about are not humanitarian problems. They are political problems, mainly. Syria is not a humanitarian problem. It's a political problem with humanitarian implications. We have to wait and see. I don't think we should jump to conclusions. We are hoping that things will move to the better, and that's at least what we are working for.
طب عندي سؤال لك، ما زال المؤسسة اللي انتم فايتين فيها بدل ما تساعدوا آية ولا تطلعوها برا بلد، وإن كان لبنان ولا أي بلد تاني، ليش ما بتساعدوا هالدول حتى تقدر تساعد اللاجئين الموجودين عندها؟
The answer is we do. And it's not only the international humanitarian system, it's not only the United Nations, it's also the World Bank and IMF and organizations that offer financial concessions and so on. This is not a permanent solution. And those people are looking for permanent solutions. And that's why we choose, and they chose, to be resettled somewhere else.
لهالدرجة كبير الموضوع لأنه ما نلاقي حل. أنت حكيت إن الحدود هي السماء، ما نلاقي حل نحل المشكلة جذرياً من نفس البلد.
We have to deal with root causes. However, dealing with root causes takes time. And it might take years and years before you reach a solution. And it's not in our hands. It's in the hands of those who decide about world affairs. But until then, we cannot let people die.
Why is xenophobia even relevant? And most importantly, what are humanitarian organizations doing to fight this?
I think we need to have a different argument to convince countries about the additional value of refugees. The pressure on economy worldwide is increasing as well. We are trying to find people who can prove the added value of refugees by telling a better story that refugees are not a minus, they are actually a plus.
Why Aya? Why did you choose her? What did you see in her that was so interesting and captivating that you chose to make most of your presentation about her?
Aya, because she's a very special child. She is the epitome of strength. The person who made those photos deserves some credit as well. Gliz Dooley. If you never heard of him, he is a famous British photographer who decided a few years back to move from doing commercial photography into giving voice and producing humanitarian photographs. And he lost his 2 legs and his left arm. They were telling him that he lost his arm and his 2 legs, and he said, which arm? And they said, the left. And he said, good, I have the right, I have 2 eyes, I can work. That's the spirit. That's another reason why we chose those photos and those stories, because they have a lot of background.
I'm going to answer, why do refugees matter? Refugees matter because they're people just like me and you, and they did not choose to be refugees. Anyone can be refugees.
You are beautiful.